Hello! Welcome! We are live. So exciting. The return of Magical Girl Society Book Club. I'm joined today, obviously, by Brianna.
Hello.
And we're very excited today to be discussing The Bear and the Nightingale, which was our pick for. Ooh, you have a hardcover.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't
Fancy.
I don't have the dust jacket, but very
It's
beautiful.
very pretty. This book has like such pretty editions, and none of them
Yeah.
are accessible anymore. It's really
Yeah.
distressing. I like dream of one day getting the I think it's Fairy Loot had like a set.
Oh, that's
Um,
so pretty.
and they're so pretty. But anyways, hello. Yeah, we're discussing The Bear and the Nightingale, which was our January book club pick. And this book is like a super wintry, Russian inspired fantasy. We follow this girl who um, has basically always been like kind of ostracized her whole life because she doesn't like fit into what society expects for her how she should behave as a girl. And we slowly start to see that she has some um, special abilities in this world. I don't know. I don't want to like give away too much in case you haven't read it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a really beautifully written story, and this first book is very much like basically like her life growing up. It's like a coming of age story. And yeah, so do we want to start off by discussing our general overall thoughts about the book?
Ooh, yes. Yeah, the I really enjoyed it. I
Hmm.
haven't read any as far as I know, I don't think I've read any like Russian folklore inspired novels before, any books even set in Russia. So this was kind of my first foray into that, and I think the way that Catherine Arden build her world is so incredible. Like I am sitting in like 95-degree Fahrenheit weather and I felt chills reading her
Yeah.
descriptions of like the Russian north and the relentless winters and things like it was, I think her way with words and world building and setting was incredible. And I also obviously I love the characters and everything, and I was like I'm not familiar with Russian folklore at all, or the
Hmm.
sort of like the Frost King or the Winter King, and I thought all of that was really interesting and well done. And I had a great time reading it, and I would love to check out the sequel and the third book as well.
Yeah, I agree. So going into this, I was excited to read it. This was a reread for me. And I
Mhm.
read the first one a couple years ago and I liked it, but I didn't love it. Like I never really fully got the like hype for the book.
Mhm.
Like I remember when I first read it, I ended it and I was like, that was nice. And then I just kind of went about my life and I never really felt any sort of strong urge to like read the next one or to continue with this world and this story. But then this reread, this really proves like how much like mood and just like your expectations can really affect your experience with the book because this read I just like loved this book. Like every single moment, I was like, this is everything to me. And I love books like this. Like Spinning Silver is one of
Mm.
my favorite books. And it's like, I wouldn't say similar, other than the fact that they both are inspired by like Russian folklore and are very wintry. Other than that, they're very different stories. But I love that one. And I feel like this one, I feel like is definitely a lot I think better because you really get more of that character development, and I just like I loved that, and I loved, why am I blanking on the main character's name right now?
Vasya.
Vasya, thank you.
Vasya.
Um, I loved her just, like, development over the whole story and just, like, getting to, like,
Mhm.
grow up with her um, and just, like, see how she takes on all these different challenges. So, yeah. And hello, everybody who has joined. JC, yes, this is a book club. It's the Magical Girl Society. Um, book club slash anime club slash just cool hangout on Discord. But we're on Discord. I have a link down in the description box in case you want to join. Um, do you have any, did you have any like favorite characters throughout when you were reading?
Ooh, yeah. Well, my favorite character is Vasya, but I
Mhm.
also I'm biased because we spend like way more time with her than anyone
Yeah.
else. But I also really liked Alyosha, her older brother, the one that's like closest in age to her.
Yeah.
I bookmarked like so many of their little moments together in my hard copy because I think like he was just the one character that kind of just unconditionally loved his sister and like wanted to protect her. And there's like little moments in the book that really showed the love between like the two siblings and how he was always going to support her even though like everyone else kind of ostracizes
Yeah.
her, wants to change her before they're going to fully love her, accept her. And I love that she always had like this one person in her corner that was always going to like be down to like he's always going to protect her, but not because she needs protecting, but because he just loves her so much. And I liked him a lot as a character as well.
I completely agree. I loved her relationship with Alyosha, and I was really glad that she had someone like that in her family. Um, because like she was so like isolated a lot of the time. I loved I found Arita to be interesting as a character, and I'm really
Mm.
interested to see like how she develops because I feel like she really, especially, and we'll discuss spoilers in a bit, but especially with certain endings, I'm just intrigued to see like what happens with her character. And I loved Duna.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I just like
So,
I
oh
loved
yeah.
her and like their relationship and how she'd tell her stories and yeah. So definitely loved all of them. Least favorite characters. We want to start there with who I
Ooh.
assume is probably our priest.
Yeah, I was like Constantine. He reminded me a lot. So Constantine, I assume that's who you were talking about too, like
Hmm.
the priest.
Yeah.
He reminded me a lot. I don't know if you like remember or watched and or remembered Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame,
Yeah,
but
that's actually such a good
yeah,
comparison.
a lot of the way that he like when we're in his head, a lot of the way that he would think about Vasya reminded me so much of oh, we just
Oh
yeah,
no,
but a
did
lot
it
of the
glitch?
way that he would talk. Yeah, it glitched for a second. I was like, did we lose him?
Sorry.
But yeah, a lot of the way he talked about Vasya reminded me of how Frollo talked about Esmeralda, how he was going to save her and bring her closer to God, but in his own private time would like fantasize about her, and he became like
Yeah.
obsessed with her the same way that Constantine was like, oh, I'm going to save Vasya from herself. I'll make her a God-fearing woman. And then in his own private
Mhm.
time, he's like obsessed with her and he can't stop thinking about her. And he's like being led astray by her. And she's like a
Yeah.
teenage girl. Yeah. I think that reminded me so much about like those two types of characters.
No, I agree. I feel like this book had like some really good commentary about like men who villainize women and like why maybe a lot of that is like projection, which I thought was super well done. And I hated his character but loved his character for that reason. Um Read this book 3 years ago and loved it so much. Really hope you both liked it too. I think we both really liked it. Yeah, thankfully. We haven't had a book yet. I don't think we're like one of us has like loved it and one of us has hated it, which
Oh,
is
that's true. Yeah.
surprising. Um, what about like her? I what I loved about watching the story progress is really watching her relationship with her siblings also progress throughout the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of starting off with how um oh actually let's look at this first from Sophia. Part of
Mm-hmm.
Constantine's behavior felt like he was trying to punish Vasya for making him feel a certain way. Agreed.
Yeah.
100%.
Like
Which
he
is
just
like,
existed.
yeah, which is like such a good metaphor for like, I feel like a lot of how men talk about women.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, with her siblings, I feel like it was really interesting to see like how her relationships shifted over the course of the book, like how close she was with Olya at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then Olya was just gone. Or
Yeah,
like her
she's
older
just.
brothers, and just like how that sort of shifted to like her then being the older sibling,
Mhm.
which I thought was really fascinating to watch over the course of
Yeah.
the book.
I really did like her relationship with Irina, the younger sibling, because I feel like
Yeah.
it could have so easily been like a jealous stepsister, like, and then Irina's like the pretty Cinderella, and then Vasya is like the bitter stepsister. But they have, like, beyond what like parental abuse they both kind of suffer, they have a really loving sisterly relationship. And
Yeah.
Irina really cares about Vasya, and she's never like petty towards her, and Vasya in return is like never petty towards Irina. And I really appreciated like these two young girls had a healthy relationship despite like all of the negativity surrounding them, especially from like their mom slash stepmom.
Yeah, I agree. It was also like nice just to see Vasya take on that like older sister role too, like to have to kind of be the responsible one or the carer, um, versus like being the one who's always chased around. I'm trying to think if there's anything else non-spoilery that we can discuss before I put up the spoiler.
Spoiler.
thing.
Yes, spoiler
Yeah.
cast.
I'm trying to think. Do you want to talk just like about setting in general and like your thoughts on that? Because I
Ooh,
feel
yeah.
like that was such, I feel like the setting was like its own character, like with the woods
Mhm.
and just like with how atmospheric she made everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I read so this is my first adult novel that I read by Catherine Arden, but I read her middle grade series, like the middle grade horror series that she wrote, and I feel like having read, now this is my fourth book of hers, that she really thrives as like an atmospheric writer, because in her middle grade
Yeah.
horror, like she, like, I got chills from reading that too, and it's written for like seventh graders, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I think the way like setting is described, and like she, like, life is breathed into these places, and I felt in the moment, like I felt that dead of winter when there was no harvest and people were starving, and she had to like, everyone had to hold on to these tiny stale bread pieces to make it by. And I felt it when she goes to the river, like Vasya goes down to the river to spend time with like the river spirit there. Like, it, every place that she went felt so vivid.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm not someone who necessarily always notices a good setting or
Yeah.
like specifically seeks it out, but I feel like when it happens upon me, like when I read a book that has an amazing setting, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also like I love an amazing setting. Um and so for me that's always like it's always such a treat when like a book actually has one. I really want to read her middle grade now because I remember you saying that you really liked them
I did.
or like that series and I've never read them. So I definitely want to pick those up because like I just the way that she wrote the set like the world in this, it like it's one of those books that just like fully brings you into it and I love that. You mentioned the river spirit though. So do you want to talk about like the spirits? Because I found them to be so I found that like whole magic system to be like so interesting. Like the whole idea that like it's fully based on belief. And so like if you
Mhm.
as people like stop believing or stop, you know, honoring these spirits, then they start disappearing. Um and I
Mhm.
thought that was like such an interesting magic system and um it's I the only thing I could think of that's similar is like Peter Pan because Tinkerbell you clap if you believe and then she gets magic.
Oh, yeah, she gets magic back. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's other similar systems out there, but I just loved it because like I felt like it did such a good job of also just like honoring folklore too.
Mhm.
That the book was pulling from a lot.
Yeah, I really loved Vasya's relationships with all of the different like spirits in the house, and how when like the way it's they describe it, like when she meets the hearth spirit, like the one who helps mend the clothes in her house and stuff, and she's like, "Where'd you come
Yeah.
from?" And he's like, "I didn't come from anywhere. I'm just here." And then
Mhm.
she's like, "Well, what happens if the house burns down? Will you die?" And he's like, "No, I'm just here." And I thought that was such an interesting idea of like, and also the horse stall spirit. I can't remember his name, but that horse stall spirit that started stealing grains once the town stopped leaving out offerings for him. I
Yeah.
thought his relationship with her is also so special because she began like in the dead of winter when she herself was already going to bed hungry every night. Like, as a child, she's leaving out little pieces of food for this spirit to try to keep like his existence alive so that she can protect her town. I thought like the magic system itself and like the way that it melded in with her character growth was so interesting because you're watching a child literally keep her town from going to shambles. by
Yeah.
going hungry and sharing her food with a spirit that like only her and her abusive stepmom can see.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Her stepmom, just a rough time. And like part of me like feels for her. Like it's gotta suck to see spirits and think you are seeing like the devil everywhere.
Yeah,
Um and like she should have just been able to go to the convent. Like that's what she wanted.
yeah,
Um, and like so I feel bad for her in like some ways because it's like this shouldn't have been her life. Like
mhm.
she should not have had to have gone through all of this and like it's all men's fault.
Yeah.
Like everything. So um but oh she was so frustrated.
Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, there's like some spoilery things, but like some of the things that happen, I was like,
Well, here I can let me add the spoiler ticker. We are now in spoiler zones. So, if you have not read The Bear and the Nightingale, this is your time to head out.
oh yeah.
Now you can discuss openly.
Yeah. The one moment that I'm thinking of is I can't remember exactly what Vasya did to make Anna mad, but Anna came back and like whipped her with some branches until she bled.
Yeah.
And then even like Piotr was like, this was too much. And then like after that moment, there was like a sentence or two about how Alyosha started to keep track of when Vasya would leave and come back, so that he would never leave her alone with their stepmom after like that
Hmm.
really bad beating. I remember reading that and being like, the it didn't even focus that much on like what happened, but like just knowing that like she bled from her stepmom's beating because of something relatively inconsequential. Like I like chills through my body for this little girl.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was like I hated all of that. And I also like her dad wasn't a bad dad. I feel like for the time period and setting that they were in, like he's probably actually a very good dad. In how like free he allowed her to be, and how much he like genuinely cared.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like he was so frustrating because I'm like, if you actually care, why are you allowing all this to happen?
Yeah.
And it's like this constant battle in my head of like he thinks he's doing the right thing, like he thinks he's protecting her, um, but also, man, he was frustrated.
Yeah. I feel like he was like that with all of his kids too. Like when Sasha wanted to
Yeah.
go join the monastery, he was like, "You can join, but then you'll no longer be a son of mine." And then like
Hmm.
when I think his eldest son Kolya wanted to join the war efforts, and then Piotr was like, "Go join the war, and then I'll also cut you out of this family." I feel
Yeah.
like he's a man of like very. I think Vasya describes him best, where he's like strict and stubborn, but he's fair. Like you understand.
Yeah.
He's not wishy-washy depending on the person or like the vibes, but he always has like one very clear set of beliefs, and if you
Yeah.
vary from that, then he no longer has any sees any worth for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's like really cares about honor a lot and like tradition. Um, but yeah, I feel like that is honestly part of what makes him so frustrating to read because like there is no wiggle room, you know, like there's
Yeah.
no like pushing or compromise. It's like everything or nothing. And then at some point, sir, you're gonna run out of sons. If you keep banishing all of them. Oh, here we go. The idea of God, spirits being created from belief itself, or at least relying on belief to continue existing, reminded me a lot of American Gods being all gay men. But I've seen it elsewhere before too. I actually haven't read that or watched that one. Maybe one day.
I haven't either.
I've heard it's
Yeah,
really
I've heard a
good.
lot about Neil Gaiman.
Um, what was I gonna say? Oh, do you know how old, or does anyone know how old Anna was? Because she was very young when she was like married to Pieter.
Yeah.
Pietro?
They said that
Uh,
she was a little bit older than Peter's oldest child. So I assume she was like 17 or something.
yeah.
Like
So
an
a child.
older teenager. Yeah, so a child.
A
Exactly.
child.
So a child.
Um, yeah, it's really frustrating. Just like the whims of men and like that I
Mhm.
feel like is such a big factor in like how these women's lives end up, and like that was really frustrating to watch because I was just like, I just want Vasya to be able to like be badass, and the fact that she has to like hide herself, the fact that her mom had to hide
Yeah.
herself,
Mhm.
um, is really sad. Um, do you want to talk about the ending, or just like more of that end section?
Ooh,
Uh,
yeah.
specifically, when she finally meets the what is his title? The Winter Spirit, Winter
The the fr- I get okay.
Frost.
I get the good. Well, not that either of them are like a good guy, but I get them mixed up. Is the Winter King the evil one?
No, the
Is the one
winter frost guy is good, and then the summer one is bad. The
the summer
bringer of
one?
storms.
The bear.
The bear.
The bear. Yeah, I remember the first. This is not the ending part. This is when like the very beginning when she's like 6 years old and she runs
Yeah.
into the sleeping one-eyed man by the oak tree. I
Yeah.
knew that had to be an important scene because otherwise why would she just run into this man? But I remember that was another scene where I was like, Catherine Arden is a master of words because I felt chills up and down my spine for this 6-year-old girl who just ran into two men who clearly have way more power than they should.
Yeah. No, that
It's
scene is like so stressful. I'm just like, please just run. Um, but yeah, I found him to be like really fascinating. I love how the story opens up with like a story about him or a folk
Mhm,
tale about him. And then when you finally get to meet him and he kind of like references those old stories, but it's almost like a throwaway kind of joke for him.
mhm.
I thought was I don't know, I just kind of thought that was fun, the way that that was like built up into his character. And their relationship in general, I find really interesting. And I'm just intrigued to see where it goes. I do kind of get romance vibes from the first one. I
I
don't know
did too.
if that's where it's gonna go in the future,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm assuming. Um, and I do really like their dynamic together. Um, and I'm excited to see her like sort of find more power um, as the story goes on and like see how that changes their dynamic.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of actually hope it doesn't turn in like completely like I like the idea
Yeah,
of them being like fated soulmates, but not necessarily like lovers, if that makes sense.
I see. Yeah, I agree.
Like two people who are clearly so good together, or like but not necessarily lovers. I don't know the whole
Yeah,
like teenage girl, and then in
I
Immortal
know.
Being, and Immortal Being, even if he looks like a young man, I'm always kind of
Ugh,
like.
I
Ah.
know. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I am very interested to see where their story goes. And I remember reading an interview with the author, and she mentioned, or I think she goes by she her pronouns, but I think that she mentioned that she wrote each book to be able to be something that could be read independently.
Hmm.
So like even though it is a trilogy and like if you read them in order, it'll obviously make the most sense. But she said that her goal was to
Oh,
have written them so that they could be read independently. So I'm kind of interested to see
fascinating.
where the story goes next. And she said that she like hates cliffhangers in series. So then she was like,
Same.
I wrote each one to be read independently. And I was like, oh, but I'm pretty sure the rest of this story follows the same characters, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
hope so. Oh my gosh, I'll be so upset if
You
we
just get
don't
someone
get.
completely new.
Yeah. Um, I need to continue with Vasya. I'm
Yeah.
not done here. Um, that's actually really fascinating, and now I'm even more excited to pick up the next books because yeah, if they're kind of like standalone-ish, that'll be just a really interesting, I feel like, fantasy series.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think. There was something I wanted to bring up and I'm blanking. When she finally meets him though, or when she finally goes out into the woods, and he like gives her a horse, right? It was like a magical
Oh yeah,
horse.
like soul. What's the horse's name?
Uh, sorry, I did the audiobook, so
Oh,
I
wait,
have nothing to
that's
look
right.
up.
But
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
the horse,
the horse.
the horse.
Um, I loved that. I loved, like, that full circle moment of, like, her finally, like, getting her own horse and it being, like, such an amazing horse, and,
Mhm.
like, that moment at the end when she, like, finds out that Anna is in the forest and she, like, in front of everybody, like, calls her horse, and, like, jumps on and, like, goes, into the woods without, like, thinking about it. Like, I loved just, like, that moment of growth from, like, when she was little
Mhm.
and she would, like, yearn to be able to, like, do that to then being able to. I loved that element.
Yeah. Oh, actually, on that same note, I feel like
Mhm.
it was such a good callback to the scene when she steals like that guy that she was betrothed to for like 3 days when
Oh,
she
I
steals
forgot
his
about
horse.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
I forgot about him.
she goes to, like, steal his horse and, like, emasculates him in front of everybody because she can control his horse way better than he can, and she rides the
Mhm.
horse to try to save her nephew's life, and, like, this time, she gets the opportunity to, like, jump on a horse, and no one not emasculating anyone, it's her own horse to try to save her stepmom's life, like, it was such a cool moment, like, you see her finally get to be free with,
Yeah.
Morosco instead of having to hold herself back or worry about what people are going to think of her and how like what if she brings shame to her family, because I feel like that was a big thing with Vasya too, is she couldn't care less what people thought about her, but I feel like the idea of bringing pain to like her brother or suffering to her little sister or to her father
Yeah.
was like a big thing for her, which is why I found her so compelling as a character, because she's so loving and so caring, but the world doesn't appreciate girls with opinions and thoughts at that time.
Yeah, no, it's very frustrating. That whole, like, side plot of, like, the marriage was so frustrating.
Oh yeah.
Um, Let me just block this person
Yeah.
real quick. Annoying. Um, that whole, like, side plot with that guy that she was supposed to marry was, like, so frustrating. I couldn't remember because I had read it, but it was years ago, and I was like, I couldn't remember if she, like, actually had to marry this guy, and I was just dreading that that was, like, what was about to happen. So I was really happy that
Yeah.
that was averted. Um, but it was also just, like, it was surprising to me that Dunya went along with that because I was I feel like I was constantly surprised by, like, Dunya not being as into, like, the spirits as
Mm.
Vasya was,
Mhm.
um, and, like, trying to, like, prevent her from engaging with that because, like, at first, at least, I my interpretation or my sort of view of her was that she would, like, help Vasya towards that life, um so I also, like, found that, like, a little bit disappointing with Dunya and just, like, I don't know, trying to, like, marry her off and, like,
Mhm.
knowing this girl. Like, I get it from her dad because, like, he's a guy, whatever. He doesn't get it. But I feel like with Dunya, it's just like, why would you like, you saw what happened to her mom, why would you want this life for her? Even if you are scared for this other possibility.
Yeah, because even her dad, like he kept thinking, imagining her as a matronly woman tending to the
Mhm.
hearth or whatever, and he felt sadness and regret from it, and it hadn't even happened yet, but he kept pushing it anyways because he would prefer to kill her fire, like kill her spirit, as opposed to whatever unknown might happen if like they gave her over to Morosco.
Yeah.
And that was really
Uh,
sad.
it was really sad. I agree with this. It'd be really sad if Asuka didn't see her family again in the sequels. What do you think if you were to like? Do you have any ideas for like what you would want to see or think you might see in the sequels for Vasya and her family?
I don't know. I feel like Arena has to come back somehow because she was set up
Hmm.
to be like the opposite of Vasya, but we don't
Yeah,
actually know if that's what she wanted of her own volition or if that was kind of the life that was pushed upon her because Vasya was just so opposite on the end of the spectrum. So I feel like she must come back, and I would just be upset if I didn't see Alyosha again.
same.
I don't know what I would want because I feel like he didn't play like specifically a huge part in the plot aspect
Hmm.
of things, but I feel like I would be very sad if Vasya's favorite person, the only person who like 100% was on her team the entire time, just like disappeared from the story.
Yeah, no, I agree. He makes a good sidekick.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued for Arena because like with the ending and with both her parents dying,
Mhm.
I'm intrigued to see like just like how her relationship is with Vasya after this book, you know? Like
Mhm.
because there are moments even in the first book where like Arena seems to like turn on Vasya, like when she glares at her after Dunya's funeral and like doesn't even
Mhm.
like give like ask her to explain. Um and like a few instances like that where she does take her mom's side on things. Um and so I am intrigued to see just like how she develops in the future books and how their relationship develops. Because as of right now, I really like that they're, you know, they don't hate each other. But I'm
Yeah.
nervous. I'm nervous about like what that might be in the next story.
Yeah, because I wonder if it's going to be like if their storyline is going to mirror or maybe somehow like subvert the original story of Moscow with the two sisters, of like the
Oh,
one that was like like the stepmom hated her, wanted her out,
yeah,
and abandoned her in the woods, and then she became favored by Morosco, and then they sent the prettier, sweeter, like the sweeter daughter out, and then she died. She was murdered. Like I
yeah,
wonder if that's going to be something. I would prefer that to be subverted and like some I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it was like a different path, and instead of being anti-Vossy and like irate and mean and cold-hearted, that she kind of subverts like that storyline, and we get to see it play out a different way. But I feel like the
yeah.
two of them are meant to kind of call back to that original story.
True,
So
true.
I'm
Or
hoping.
yeah, hopefully not. But even like, I wonder if there'll be a dynamic there of like because Morosco, is that how you say it?
I looked it
Moros
up, and a video told me it was Morosco, but I don't
Morosco.
know.
They like don't I feel like they don't say his name that many times in the book, so it didn't get like drilled into my head as much. Um, but like his relationship with the bear, like I wonder if her relationship with her sister could potentially even mirror that, like
Oh yeah.
two sides of the same coin kind of thing. Which I also hope not.
Yeah,
I just
I
want them to be friends. That's the dream.
I feel like it'd also be cool if somehow they like mend the relationship between I don't know, something like that where
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because like I was like, well, summer's not that bad. It gave me very like snow miser, heat miser vibes too.
Oh yeah.
When I first started reading it. Um, but yeah, I'm interested also to see just like a deeper understanding of like their history. That's what I really wanted throughout a lot of the book because I was like, I want to know how this started and I want to know how this rift happened between or was it always there
Mhm.
between the two brothers.
Yeah, this definitely made me want to read more folklore and kind of like invest like look up the original folktale too that this was based off of,
Yeah.
because I feel like that would give me so much more context. I don't know if like the what Dunya said at the beginning was like the entire context of the folk tale, but I am invested now.
Wait, does your book have an intro?
No, it just has I'm talking about like the story that Dunya tells all the kids at the beginning of
Gotcha.
the book. Like
Gotcha.
I think
Yes.
I think that's just like the original folk tale, but I wonder if there's like
Oh.
more that
Mhm.
I should know.
I feel like there must be, cause like, when I think about the Naomi Novik book, The Spinning Silver, I feel like it had similar vibes with, like, the Frost King in that book too.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so I'm into it. Um, yeah, I'm interested to see how his relationship with Vasya grows also, and, like, not so much not just romantically, but, like, um power wise because I feel like even in this book he's like it was surprising to me that he didn't want because like going into it I remember I was like oh yeah now he's going to like train her
Hmm.
when she like first goes into the woods and instead he's like okay no go back to your home now
Hmm.
and I was like why are we doing this wasn't the whole point that you wanted her to come to you, like you wanted her to have that talisman. So that really confused me. Um, so I am interested to see, like, I feel like there's more going on there
I feel like it
than
could
what
also
we've
be.
gotten.
I
Sorry.
wonder if it's like a. Oh, sorry. But I wonder if it's like a test of loyalty of some sort. Like he wanted her to come back
True.
of her own volition, which she
Mhm.
does ultimately, right? But like
Yeah.
if it's just like, oh, you dragged this like wild maiden into your lair because of a talisman that was like threatening everyone's life if she didn't follow.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe an eternal god would be cool with that, but maybe if they are setting the two of them up to have some type of romance in the future, like I feel like you'd want the winter god to be a little bit, or winter king to be a little more loving,
Yeah. Yeah.
a little less manipulative. So then maybe that could
Yeah.
be.
I feel like if there is a romantic element, it probably won't show up until, like, for a while into her growing up. Like, I feel like right now it's still I feel like it probably wouldn't happen until she is, like, older. I hope.
I hope.
I hope. But I have heard that it is, like, romantic, so we'll see
Yeah.
how she handles it. I'm sure she'll handle it wonderfully, hopefully. Uh, but just, like, in terms of, like, him mentoring her, I also, like, am interested to, like, know exactly what it is that she is, because did they
Mm.
answer that in this book? Other than, like, maybe a witch?
Yeah, not really. Mostly just like, oh, she could see spirits and she obviously had sway over like influence, like she's able to converse to them on like an equal level almost. But
Yeah.
I feel like that hasn't been explored as much. And then all the spirits also told her that if she leaves the town, then everything would fall apart. So it's clear that she has some type of tie
Yeah.
to her hometown or like to the land as well.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, with that, it's that she's the only one who remembers or, like, who, like, holds on to the traditions.
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like if she can get other people to, like, hold on to those traditions, then that would then she could finally leave, or I don't know. Or at least, like, the world would not be on the brink of collapse. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That was the one thing that I really wanted in the book, was just, like, an answer of, like, what exactly, like, she is, like, what her mom was, like, what is this power that they've passed down? Is it just being able to, like, see the spirits? Or is there more to it than that also? Um, like, is she also gonna be like a god herself? Like the frost, or a king or whatever herself? Like the frost king or the bear? Or is she just able to see the spirits?
Yeah,
It's
I
my
feel like
question.
the other story that Dunya tells is the one
Mhm.
of Anna's mother, the one who like came to the streets of Moscow as a beggar, but her
Mhm.
magic and her power was so incredible that it like charmed the great prince or whatever. I wonder if like
Mhm.
we're gonna see a similar version of that, but instead of
Oh.
charming the great prince, she like comes in to like kind of take influence for herself, not in an evil way, obviously, but like
Mhm.
try to drive out the forces that are like destroying her land, her country. If she comes into the town of Moscow that she was like never allowed to go to before
Yeah. That
with
is a
all of
good
her great
point.
glory.
Um, yeah, I kind of kept waiting for people to be charmed by Asvasia.
Me
In a
too.
sense, because her mom was always like, I feel like her mom couldn't have been that much different from her, and was apparently charmed the socks off of everyone. So why aren't people being charmed by Vasya? Um, I agree with this comment. Love that the story began from Vasya's birth and spent a lot of time in her childhood, teen years for a decent portion of the book.
Mm.
Yeah, I loved that, like, slowly getting to just, like, watch her grow up element. Um, I feel like it was just, like, so different from, like, other fantasy books where I feel like you get a little bit of, like, their very young age, and then, like, it jumps usually to, like, okay, now they're a teen and they're ready to go off on their, like, chosen one adventures.
Yeah.
And I love that we really got to see her, like, age. I'm interested to see like if that is continued in future books. Like, do we get to see her continuing to grow up and like grow with her into like when she's, I don't know, 80?
Yeah.
Or like when do we sort of stop, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I would love that if we got to spend a lot of time with her throughout her lifetime, because I feel like a lot of books, a lot of fantasy novels always kind of take place in such a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything big just happens to them at like age 17
Yeah.
or like age 23, like whatever. Like everything big happens all at once, and then it's just like who knows? Like they just go back to being like a regular person afterwards. So there's another fantasy series I read recently, Jade Legacy, that
Oh, I need to read that.
you have to read this series. Um, but we got to spend like decades with these characters,
Oh,
and I loved
amazing.
and I
I
loved
love
that
that.
because I feel like it in like a real world sense. I mean, obviously it's a fantasy novel, right? But like if something like this were to happen in the world, I feel like it wouldn't necessarily just take place over like the 6 months of her young adulthood life, but it would be something
Yeah.
that she builds up. You know, that she if she's like training to harness magic powers or something would happen over a series of a long course of time. And if she's going to be taking on like political power, if there's political intrigue in the future books, then it would be something that she would have to be a little bit older to realistically successfully do, especially
Yeah.
in a time period when women really are not given a voice. Like she can't just come in here as like a teenager and be like, eh. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to see it kind of take place over a long period of time.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because we don't really get to see, I feel like, especially women in fantasy who are older. That's
Mm.
so rare. Um, and I would love that. I would love to see like her be like 30, 40, 50, and still have this like fantasy element. Like once she's 50, then I'll okay her relationship with Veronica. Then you can start. uh, but but yeah, I just in general would love more of that in fantasy. I wish there was more. Like I know that there's a couple like that for men, but not as much for women. The only one I could think of is like the fifth season.
Oh, you're right. All the fifth season's also amazing.
Oh, so good. Let's see. It was also so cool to see her slowly start interacting with the folklore mythical creatures in her nearby environment. I love Russian folklore. I agree. That was really cool. I love the way that that was introduced. I loved the like when she first realizes no one else can see the creature that
Oh,
she's been
yeah.
talking to. I thought that was like really cute.
Yeah, I loved her relationship with everyone. And she like I especially loved when she met the horse stable spirit whose name escapes me, but I think like
Yeah.
he was my favorite of all of the spirits that she developed a friendship with,
Hmm.
because I don't know, something's just so sweet about the idea of like I realized that she's like the only one who can help fix the situation because she's the only one who can see them.
Yeah.
I thought it was such a unique way of it felt like Ghibli-esque. I don't know,
Yeah, I
that
agree.
type of power given to bestowed upon a young girl who just wants to like
Hmm.
make the world a better place. I don't know. It was nice.
And also like the fact that they were, I feel like what also like lends itself to that feeling is that they're like spirits that just help with like everyday things. Like this is a spirit
Mm,
that helps with the horses, and this one just does our mending. And I
yeah.
just thought that was really cute. And I know that that's like also like from folklore, but I loved it in the story. I feel like it really added to like creating an ambiance that like truly feels magical. Because I feel like sometimes you'll have like lots of beings with power in fantasy, and I feel like sometimes with that you lose when you focus just on like power, it loses some of the magic. And I feel like this one, because these creatures, like they didn't really have power, they were just magical. It really like added to that feeling for me.
Yeah. It felt like a cozy fantasy at some of those times
Yeah.
because of that. And I really love things like I love the grand adventure, but I also love when you're just like at home with the magic of it doing regular things.
Yeah. I agree. Also, I agree with this comment. At times it feels like teen girl protagonists are written in a way that makes them feel older. And I feel like Vasya, like, she feels her age throughout the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that too. That's why I feel I would hope to see her age more if
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be taking on more responsibilities. Because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of character growth for most people doesn't happen all in like a couple of months, right? Like over years you would start to kind of come into your own or develop your own behavior. So I love to see that in like a fantasy setting as well, where she gets to be like 25, but like 30, 40, 50,
Mm-hmm.
and you're no longer like a wild young maid. There's not like the romantic idea of being like like a little single 18-year-old traipsing through the meadows.
Yeah,
You're like a woman, a middle-aged woman who's been through it, who's seen it all, and like still believes in the magic and is still out there having her grand adventures. Like that would be something I would love to see.
I agree. Be nice. Um, I'm trying to think if there are any other like key plot points or characters that we haven't discussed yet. I'm interested to see like how the church plays more of a role in things, like with her brother
Oh
and
yeah.
like the whole war that's like brewing.
Mhm.
Um, I have like no concept of how that's going to impact everything going on, but who knows? And like Olya, I like would love to see Olya again and like how she's actually doing.
That's true. She just left and had kids, and then we like don't hear
Hmm.
from her again.
Yeah. I'm like, is she actually happy? I hope so. But like that whole marriage made me nervous. She was so young.
Yeah. I guess the only reprieve is that her husband was also extremely young, so she wasn't
Yeah,
getting married off
true.
to like some middle-aged man.
Yeah.
Which, oh, that was another thing in this book. I had a really hard time keeping track of how old everyone is in relation to one
Yeah.
another, because with Anna and Piotr, like I knew he was older because he was peers with her dad, which
Hmm.
meant that she must be quite a bit younger. But a lot of the times, like when they introduced Vasya's would-be husband, like her potential betrothed, and they mentioned he's 30, I was like, wait, how old is Vasya?
Yeah. Like 13 or something.
Yeah, because I was trying to
Because
get
she was
an
young.
understanding of how old the is considered like acceptable, because in the context of the story, right, they say like, oh, but he's not old, like he's actually pretty young, like you're so
He
lucky,
has
he's
all his
mentioned young,
teeth.
he has those teeth, and I was like, so historically in this
The
time
bar
period,
is on the ground.
yeah, exactly, like I'm not super familiar, so like is it super common for like 14-year-old girls to have been married off to like 40-year-old men to make 30
Yeah.
seem quite young? So I don't
Yeah.
have the historical knowledge to kind of gauge that, but that's something I want to look up now, because I that was one of the things I had the hardest time following between all the characters and like the marriage proposals and like the potential this and that. I was like, how old are you?
Yeah. I agree. That was the thing that was always like whenever someone was about to get married, I was like, how old? What's the age difference here? Um, Anna and Pietro's like that was rough. I really liked him, and then that happened, and I was like, ugh,
Yeah. I was like,
no.
yeah, I do feel really bad for Anna, because I feel like she was kind of driven in. I mean, not to like excuse an abuser, but I feel like so
Yeah,
much of it was like she was forced into this position, isolated in the middle of the woods in the north, with no one who understood her quote unquote madness, and kind of just wrote her off as, oh, well, now she's like not our problem anymore. And then she didn't
yeah,
have any safe place, and then it drove her to just violence. And like that's really sad about her story, that she was also kind of similar age to Vasya when she was sent off like that.
yeah. No, I agree. I like when Vasya is like when she's preparing like to send Vasya to the convent and she's like envious of Vasya.
Hmm.
It like made me sad because I was like, you didn't choose this life. You chose how you interacted with the children around you. And that is awful. Um, but like she should never have been in that position in the first place. It's like what's frustrating. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I also just remembered this. I hated the like dead walk part with Dunya. It just made me
Oh,
so sad. I was just like, just let this lady
Lady.
rest.
Yeah.
Let her go. Like, oh, when she died and she was like terrified, I was so upset. So upset.
Like I feel like I knew Dinya was not going to make it to the end of this book, because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, an like elderly woman who knows a little too much and like is the keeper of old stories that are threatening. Like this, I'm like, there's no way she makes it to the end. But then I was
Yeah.
so gutted when what happened. Like Oh, stressful.
Yeah. I was like, not Dune yet.
Not doing
Let just let her go. All right, any other key characters or points we want to discuss? I think we checked off everything on my list.
I think, yeah, I think that was everything for me too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, wait, I love this point, and I feel like this is a good one to end off on. I love the idea of casual spirits existing alongside us who care for us and we care for in return, relying on each other in very simple but necessary ways. That's beautiful. That
That
is
is,
a stunning take on this book.
yeah, that, I feel like that's what made it feel so cozy and believable as a fantasy, because I didn't have to, I feel like that's pretty close to what like a lot of like for like in Vietnamese like religion prior to Catholicism coming in, like a lot of it was the idea of like spirits in your home or like in your in the in nature that you just like casually worship, and they would kind of like give back to the community in that way. And I feel like the fact that it's not grand makes
Yeah,
it so lovely
I
and cozy
agree.
and safe. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Amazing. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us for this discussion. That flew by so quickly. Um, but yeah, I loved this book. Very excited to eventually read the next two. I think I'm like hoping that Very Loot does come out those editions again or something because I want a whole set, but I want a pretty set and I don't want to pay $300 for it. Um, But yeah, if you haven't already joined the Magical Girl Society, there is a link in the description box where you can join the Discord, and we'll be voting on our next book shortly. But our current book is A Lot Soe. I'm very excited to discuss with people, and that discussion will be on Brianna's channel. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Brianna. And we'll
Thank you,
see
Monica, for hosting.
and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.